So I've completed my sketch, and you can hear my printer in the background there printing it out, and I've done that by just multiplying the layer with the finished sketch on and making it darker, because I'm going to be tracing this onto my paper using a light box. That is going to help me to be able to see it a little bit better. So here I've done a little mock-up of the kind of colours that I'm going to be using for this painting. I have done a more in-depth video all about how I go about choosing colour palettes, which I'm going to post up separately so that I don't make this video like way too long. First thing that I'm going to do is get this image transferred onto my watercolour paper. I'm using a light box and some different coloured pencils just so that I'm not using dark lines throughout. First thing I'm going to do when making this painting is to lay down a layer of very pale grey wash and then put the colour over the top. So I'm using this stuff, this Rowney Artist Acrylic ink. It's in black, and then what I do is I water it down with some water, because this on its own is it's the blackest substance known to man. This is completely colour fast and permanent, so once I paint it onto my pencil drawing, it will be a steady layer underneath that can't be messed about with, and then I'll put the colour over the top. So what I'm going to do is mix a couple of drops, well maybe just one little drop of the black with some drops of water to thin it out, and then start building up the layers on here. So when I'm doing this, you can see that I'm mixing here on a piece of glass. Usually I mix on like a little palette or a tile, but I can't find either of those things today, so that's why I'm doing it this way around. So a bit of the black ink, some water here, and then you can see as you sort of bring the two together, do a little bit on a test piece of paper just to see how dark that is, and yeah, just keep experimenting with this until you're happy with how the colour's coming out. I'm using a piece of card here to lean on because it means that if you do accidentally get like a dirty hand or any grease on your hand, it won't transfer over onto the paper. And here I'm just using some water just to feather out this edge. And what I'm doing here is going to make sense in a second. So what I'm going to do is build up these layers. So that's why I haven't bothered feathering out here. Once that's dry, another layer, and then once that's dry, another layer, and it's going to make sense in a second. So now I'm going in and using my Arteza acrylic paint in this yellow ochre colour, and I'm painting in, like just blocking in this part of the painting, because this is the part of the painting that I'm going to be gold leafing. So I find that if you put an undercoat of a yellowy tone, if there are any little holes or any little bits where the gold leaf doesn't perfectly match up, it makes the whole process a bit more makes the whole process a bit more forgiving. So I've gone round and masking taped all the edges so I can keep it nice and crispy, and now I'm going round with Arteza acrylic paint again in their olive green, and this is going to be my background colour. So now I've got all the underpainting portion of this done. I'm going to get out my watercolours, so I thought I would show you my watercolour palette. I've had this since I was a teenager. It's a Winsor and Newton. Oh my god. Okay. One of these little field study sets, pretty basic, and then I've got a couple of these other colours up here which are these tube types, and then just leave them in there to dry. So what I'm going to do now is start to build up the flesh tones on this painting using layers. So I have actually got like a, what's it got, like a Naples yellow paint, which is this one here, and then also using this brown, I think it's like called like brown ochre or something. But yeah, as I said, these are very old, so yeah, just using a combination of these paints to just build up the flesh tones gently. Good. So I finished the portion of this painting that I'm going to be doing with watercolours, and this is what she looks like. I'm instantly regretting my choice to give her orange hair over my original like colour workout thing where I gave her brown hair. So it might be that I end up changing the colour of her hair. So my next thing that I'm going to do is I've got my Arteza acrylic paints. I've got like this little colour sheet thing that I did where I just test out all the colours, and then that's how I picked these. So it's time to start marking in all of these mushrooms because I want these to look a bit more graphic than the other areas of the painting, which I wanted to be soft. So I'm going to paint these in and then see how I feel about her hair. So it's time to add the outlines to the mushrooms, and so to help the consistency of my paint a little, I'm going to be using this flow improver. So it's like a clear liquid, and you just mix a little bit of it in with the paint colour of your choice, and it just helps improve the viscosity of the paint and makes it flow a bit easier. I particularly find that this is useful when you're doing thin lines because it like improves the viscosity of the improves the flow of the paint without making it streaky or runny as it can do if you mix it with water. So the next step now is to go around and outline the flowers on her headband, like headdress thing. I'm using these fine liner pens that I have just had forever, and just going around to neatly outline everything. I kind of wish I had a darker colour for this, and starting to think, ooh, should I go back over it and use brown? I'm not sure. So and my last thing to do on this painting before I add the gold leaf to this top area up here is to add my white details using one of these white Posca pens. this next part I'm going to be gold leafing, so check out my other videos because I made an in-depth tutorial on how exactly gold leafing works. Okay, so for the moment of truth I'm using a cotton pad. You can use a soft makeup brush if you prefer. And you just go around and gently buff off all the gold bits. Thank you for your support on Patreon, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, leave me some feedback if there's anything you'd like me to cover next time. Thanks.